Our story begins with a young man mocked by the entire school as an S-rank waste. Yet he spent 3 days preparing 100,000 explosive talismans. His goal was to instantly kill a boss that no one else dared to touch, even if everyone thought he was simply looking for a way to die. Even his girlfriend, who awakened as an S-rank ice mage, dumped him on the spot for the young master of the Long family, but they had no idea. His talismans required no mana and had no casting time. With a single thought, 10,000 charms would unleash their power at once. As he finished burying the 100,000th explosive talisman at the bottom of the deep well in Deadwood Town, he uttered just one word. With a massive boom, a mushroom cloud rose into the sky, and he broke through several cultivation realms instantly, while the woman who once looked down on him was currently standing at the auction house entrance with her new boyfriend, waiting to pick up the scraps of the equipment he was about to sell. At this moment, a mustachioed director on stage was speaking solemnly, telling the students that once they awakened their professions, they would become transcendents. He urged them to protect the peace and help the weak, wishing everyone could awaken the specific profession they desired most. He hoped their generation could reclaim human territory, but the students below clearly didn't take it to heart, having heard this year after year. It had been so many years since humans began awakening professions to become transcendents, yet those monsters were only getting stronger too. To be perfectly honest, most of them felt that reclaiming their lost territory was an impossible dream. Among the students waiting to awaken was Lu Yuan, a resident of the civilian district who hoped a powerful profession could finally change his fate. He was a traveler from another world, but here, everything outside the high walls belonged to the monsters, which, naturally, made life quite difficult. Without transcendent power, one could do nothing in a world filled with secret realms and dungeons. Soon, the director had the teacher begin the roll call. The students began walking toward the awakening device on stage, which looked like a 3-meter-tall giant egg, crystal clear and shimmering. Mysterious runes flowed within its glowing surface as each 18-year-old stepped inside to discover their future. The results came quickly. Gao Yu, a B-rank berserker. Next was Wang Yan, who awakened as a C-rank archer. At first, there were only B and C-rank professions, which caused little excitement, until Lu Shuangshuang stepped forward. She was revealed as an SS-rank ice mage. Imagine the shock. An SS rank was practically unheard of. We see the crowd erupting, as this is the very first time their school has ever witnessed an SS rank awakening. Not only is Lu Shuangshuang beautiful, but she also possesses an SS rank talent. One has to wonder if she is simply heaven's favorite. However, while the rank is impressive, she is an ice mage, a profession that requires a massive fortune to truly flourish. And if we remember correctly, Shuangshuang comes from the civilian district. Some suggest wealthy families will surely support her, though others can't help but chuckle at the thought. After all, if the wealthy offer support, we can only imagine what they'll want in return. Shoo, be quiet. Someone whispers. Lu Yuan is right there. Lu Yuan is her boyfriend, and although the voices are low, he hears every word. Yes, the reality of the situation is starting to sink in. The girl who just awakened as an SS rank ice mage is indeed his girlfriend, his childhood sweetheart from the civilian district. The two of them had even made a promise. Whoever awakened the stronger profession would take care of the other. But now, with her reaching the SS rank, he wonders if he even stands a chance of being stronger. He doesn't know, but deep down, he makes a silent vow. No matter what profession he awakens, he tells himself he must remain strong and self-reliant. He steals a distant glance at Shuangshuang. After she returns to her class and deals with the congratulations of her peers, she immediately pulls out her phone to start messaging. He assumes she is simply sharing the good news with her parents. Lu Yuan doesn't dwell on it and continues to wait for about an hour. Finally, it is his turn. As Lu Yuan steps into the awakening device, he feels a strange, mystical energy swirling all around him. A moment later, countless runes seem to flutter before his eyes. Talismans. Throughout his years of study, he has learned about every possible profession, and he suspects this one must be a talisman master. Sure enough, just as the thought crosses his mind, a surge of information floods his brain. The awakening is a success. He is an S-rank talisman master, starting with the explosive talisman. As the data settles, Lu Yuan's awakening ends. The teacher watching the results speaks with a voice tinged with a hint of disappointment. Lu Yuan, S-rank talisman master. To be perfectly honest, the talisman master is considered the shame of all S-rank professions. While other S-ranks can learn new skills to slay monsters and have a chance to find skill books, the talisman master is a different story entirely. Aside from the initial talisman provided, there is nothing else. To this day, no one has ever seen a new talisman drop from a defeated monster. Consequently, talisman masters are naturally unable to learn other skills. While other professions gain a new ability after their class change, the talisman master receives nothing. Even if you persevere and reach level 30, your class change only allows you to continue leveling up without granting a single new skill. No one knows why the talisman master is so limited, but everyone understands one thing. If you awaken as one, you would honestly be better off with a C-rank profession. As Lu Yuan steps out of the device, he barely has time to feel disappointed. Suddenly, a mechanical voice echoes in his mind. Congratulations, Master, on awakening as a talisman master. The career system has been activated. The system detects that the profession is incomplete and begins to repair it. His rank is promoted to EX rank, granting him his first passive talent. He can now cast talismans instantly with 0 mana cost. His second passive talent ensures he gains a new type of talisman every 5 levels. This series of prompts confirms to Lu Yuan that he isn't hallucinating. This is his true gift as a transmigrator, finally arriving when he needs it most. The system has evolved his S-rank status into the unprecedented EX rank, adding 2 truly broken talents to his arsenal. Lu Yuan realizes that he is now on a path to becoming invincible, just as he prepares to find Shuang Shuang so they can head home together and perhaps plan their future monster hunting strategy. He sees her walking toward him. We notice that her expression is strangely strained. Her unnatural look makes Lu Yuan's heart sink. He senses something is wrong. Shuang Shuang stops right in front of him. After hesitating for a long moment, she finally seems to reach a major decision. Lu Yuan, let's break up, she says, her voice low. Despite her quiet tone, everyone nearby hears her and turns to stare. Feeling the weight of their gaze, Shuang Shuang seems to feel a flash of shame. Her pale face turns bright red, yet she doesn't back down. She tells herself she needs support and vast amounts of money to level up. If she stays with Lu Yuan, could a mere talisman master earn enough for her gear and skill books? To her, the answer is clearly no. Her mind races as she searches for a justification that won't make her look like the villain. However, Lu Yuan's response catches her completely off guard. Fine, he says, just one word, uttered as calmly as if he were discussing the weather. His indifference actually makes her feel a surge of anger. She wonders if their years as childhood sweethearts meant so little to him. Or perhaps, she thinks, she simply isn't that attractive to him anymore. What did you say? She asks, refusing to believe he agreed so easily. I'm granting your wish. Is there a problem? Lu Yuan asks, looking at her with total indifference. He never expected such a cliché drama to happen to him. But since she chose this path, he is more than happy to let her go. Even if he didn't have a system and was truly just a failure, he would still have agreed. To be honest, someone like her simply isn't worth the effort. There was no reason to hold on. All the excuses Lu Shuang had prepared were now useless. Gritting her teeth, she finally says, Lu Yuan, I hope you don't blame me. We simply don't belong in the same world anymore. Forcing us to stay together would only make us both miserable. Blame her? No, he thinks. You're right, we really aren't in the same world, Lu Yuan says with a shake of his head. He turns to leave, but at that moment, a student wearing a sharp, expensive suit walks over. He blocks Lu Yuan's path with an arrogant smirk, looking quite pleased with himself. Lu Yuan, I told you before, what's the use of good grades? When graduation comes, people make their own choices. By the way, out of respect for Shuang Shuang, if you're willing, my family is hiring a doorman. Lu Yuan recognizes this man as Long Haoqing. He was the young master of the Zhu family, a man who had pursued Shuang Shuang many times before. Back then, she had rejected him at every turn, but things were different now. It seems that for the sake of money, she has finally chosen to accept him. Back then, she perhaps held a glimmer of hope for Lu Yuan. Because Lu Yuan was always the top student in school, she thought he might awaken a truly powerful profession that would have allowed him to rise in status. And compared to Long Haoqing, Lu Yuan was certainly more handsome. If he had potential, any smart woman would have chosen him. Earlier today, when Lu Shuang awakened her profession, Long Haoqing had already sent her a message. Knowing her profession would be incredibly expensive to maintain, she didn't agree immediately. She waited because she believed, deep down, that Lu Yuan truly loved her. She thought if he awakened a decent profession, he would work himself to the bone to provide for her. But in the end, she saw the profession Lu Yuan awakened, an S-rank talisman master. S-rank? Yes, of course. It certainly matched his usual academic excellence. Unfortunately, it was a talisman master, widely considered the most useless profession of all. The moment she saw his profession, she stopped hesitating and accepted Long Haoqing. Now, as Haoqing continues his insults, Lu Shuang simply walks to his side and whispers, Haoqing, let's go. With that, she pulls him away, leaving Lu Yuan behind. She doesn't even look back at Lu Yuan. It's a pity, really. Of all the professions to awaken, why did it have to be a talisman master? We can't really blame Lu Shuang, can we? If I were in her shoes, I'd choose Long Haoqing too. Honestly, she shouldn't have even dated him. Shoo, keep your voice down. Do you want to die? Lu Shuang is an SS rank weapon mage now. You shouldn't gossip behind her back like that. Lu Yuan ignores the idle chatter of the crowd. To him, these people are nothing more than passing shadows in his life. We follow Lu Yuan back to his home in the slums, where the walls are cracked and weary. This small house is the only inheritance his parents left behind. His mother passed away when he was only 5. Living in the slums with poor health and no access to proper medical care, she never stood a chance. As for his father, he disappeared during a hunting expedition with Lu Shuang's father when Lu Yuan was 12. His fate remains a mystery. Shuang's father returned heavily injured and, after a long recovery, never dared to hunt again. He settled for a life of backbreaking manual labor in the city. Lu Yuan only survived this long thanks to Federation policies. Children receive free schooling and a living allowance until the age of 18. But once you hit 18, the safety net vanishes. You are expected to stand on your own 2 feet, regardless of the circumstances. After all, once you awaken a profession, the Federation stops footing the bill. Lu Yuan sinks into his worn-out sofa and begins to plan for tomorrow. He needs a place to practice his new skills, and then he remembers the perfect spot. There is a specific boss residing in a deep well within Deadwood Town. It won't attack unless provoked, but once you strike, the hunt begins. The boss's strength is legendary. It is considered invincible against anyone under level 30. A terrifying opponent, to be perfectly honest. Groups of level 30 awakened have tried to hunt it and failed miserably, and those who have surpassed level 30 and completed their job advancement are barred from entering the dungeon. Consequently, the boss remains undefeated. It is the perfect target for someone who needs time to prepare. It would be a waste not to kill it, Lu Yuan thinks, clenching his fist. Besides, it was finally time for a little bit of revenge. He calculates that his current batch of explosive talismans will be enough to turn the creature into ash. There is, however, one small catch. Talismans cannot be stored forever. They have a strict 6-hour time limit. This applies to all his charms, which is quite a significant drawback. If not for this limitation, the talisman master wouldn't be ranked lower than a C-rank profession. 6 hours isn't much time for an ordinary practitioner. While others must slowly trace talismans in the air and drain their mana to manifest a charm, Lu Yuan is different. With just a single thought, the explosive talisman appears. In 1 second, he can generate 10 of them, quite a terrifying speed. After a restful night, he heads to the south gate of the city, where a guard stops him to ask where he's going. There are several paths from the gate. The safe ones lead to various dungeons where monsters rarely roam the perimeter. Dungeons are the best places for practice, as the monsters inside follow predictable patterns that can be studied. Many of these areas have guides left by predecessors. If one follows the strategy and coordinates well, they can emerge unscathed. The unsafe paths lead into the wild, where the monsters are unpredictable and their habits remain a mystery. Generally, awakened below the first job advancement aren't allowed there alone. Even veterans are encouraged to hunt in groups. Looking at Lu Yuan's young face, the guard assumes he's just another graduate heading out for his first practice session. Lu Yuan tells him he's heading to dungeon number 3, and the guard nods, clearing him for passage. The guard quickly opens the gate for him, revealing a bus that travels directly to the training grounds. There are already several people on the bus, and a few seem to recognize Lu Yuan, their faces twisting in surprise. They seem to be wondering how he dares to go out alone, though, for once, they keep their judgmental thoughts to themselves. Lu Yuan simply finds a seat and waits. A few minutes later, 2 more people board the bus. After waiting for the scheduled half hour, the bus departs, arriving at the entrance of the 3rd dungeon zone shortly after. This area actually contains multiple dungeons, but we see that one entrance in particular is completely deserted. That is Deadwood Town, where Lu Yuan intends to slay the boss. But as he approaches, a familiar voice rings out. Long Haoqing sneers, mocking him by suggesting he'll be eaten by monsters before he can even finish drawing a single charm. Lu Shuang chimes in, telling him to go home since no one will group with him and it's far too dangerous alone. She speaks with the tone of a concerned younger sister, an act so convincing that Lu Yuan almost finds it impressive. It seems her internal mental gymnastics are working quite well, but Lu Yuan simply tells them to mind their own business. He knows they only approached him to show off and elevate themselves by stepping on him, hardly the type of people who deserve a warm welcome. Long Haoqing sneers, asking Lu Yuan why he's acting so noble, and challenges him to a race to see who can reach their first job advancement first. He demands to know if Lu Yuan dares to compete, his body trembling with rage because Lu Yuan's constant indifference makes him feel like a fool. He is desperate to drag Lu Yuan into this game, believing it's the only way to crush him completely. Lu Yuan calmly asks what the stakes are. Long Haoqing offers $1 million if Lu Yuan wins, but if he loses, he must simply bow his head in apology. It's a simple enough demand. He asks with a smirk if it's a fair deal. Lu Yuan considers the $1 million and suggests they settle this in 1 month's time. That is when the school holds its alumni reunion. The loser will have to bow to the winner in front of all the teachers and students. Even the most patient man has his limits, and since Long Haoqing is so insistent on a provocation, Lu Yuan decides ignoring him is no longer enough. He realizes the only way to get some peace is to teach the man a lesson. Just then, Lu Shuang points out that 1 month is very short. She questions how a job advancement is even possible in that time, which suddenly reminds Long Haoqing that the first advancement requires level 30. The second is at 50 and the third at 100. In his mind, reaching level 30 in a single month is an utter impossibility. He laughs coldly, accusing Lu Yuan of being sinister and planning to void the bet when neither of them reaches the required level in time. He agrees to the 1-month deadline, but insists the winner be whoever has the higher level. Lu Yuan agrees without a second thought. As he accepts, he casts a cold glance toward Lu Shuang. To be honest, he is starting to feel quite relieved that they broke up. He realizes just how vicious she is. Her little suggestion was clearly designed to ensure Lu Yuan's public humiliation. After all, she is certain Lu Yuan can't outpace Long Haoqing. Long Haoqing tells him he'll see him in a month and hopes he doesn't hide. With that, Long Haoqing leads Lu Shuang away toward their practice dungeon. Once they are out of sight, we see Lu Yuan's expression shift. He gives a contemptuous smile and walks alone toward Deadwood Town. As we noted before, the entrance is completely deserted. Lu Yuan approaches the portal, and after the system reads his data, he enters Deadwood Town, a zone recommended for level 30 adventurers. Multiplayer, duo, or solo. The system offers 3 choices, and Lu Yuan selects solo. In the next moment, a pillar of light descends upon him. After a brief moment of darkness, Lu Yuan finds himself standing in the middle of a silent, desolate town. He discovers a triggered quest, which is quite interesting. Killing a boss now would allow him to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. With a sense of anticipation, Lu Yuan enters the town and quickly finds the withered well. Looking down, he sees only a silent, bottomless void. The silence is almost frightening. With a single thought, Lu Yuan points his finger and streams of talismans begin to flow from his fingertips. They fly out one by one, vanishing into the well. It is a tedious process, but Lu Yuan doesn't dare to be careless when facing this boss. He knows he must be extremely cautious. Even after 5 hours, he still hasn't seen the bottom of this mysterious withered well. He can't see the talismans he's created, but after 5 hours of constant work, he's certain there are over 100,000 explosive charms down there. Lu Yuan isn't in a hurry to detonate them just yet. He first walks toward the edge of the village, just to be safe. While his own explosions won't hurt him, he worries about the unexpected. If the boss survives, it's Lu Yuan who will be in trouble. Even if there's only a 1 in 10,000 chance of failure, he must be careful, as he's still quite fragile. He finally reaches the village outskirts. Looking back, he can see the dungeon entrance nearby. If the explosion fails to kill the boss, he's prepared to run without looking back. Lu Yuan forms a hand seal and mutters a single word, burst. Suddenly, the command for fire is answered by a deafening roar. A thunderous boom echoes through Deadwood Town as Lu Yuan watches a massive mushroom cloud rise into the sky. Then, a voice resonates within his mind, though this voice is soft and melodic, unlike the usual mechanical tone of the system. He has successfully slain the level 30 boss of Deadwood Town, the Well Dweller. He gains 6,000 experience points and reaches level 1. The notifications continue as he reaches level 2, then level 3, all the way up to level 10. 6,000 points is quite a haul. This allows Lu Yuan's level to soar instantly to 10. Normally, even with a professional team helping you, reaching level 10 takes 2 or 3 days. It is certainly not this easy for most. For the first ever kill of the Well Dweller, he receives the Flood Dragon Staff as a reward. The rewards continue to pour in: the Hearthfire Robe, the Flood Dragon Sword, and the Flood Dragon Collar. And that's not all. These items automatically appear in Lu Yuan's inventory, a storage space that manifested the moment his profession awakened. The inventory automatically collects loot dropped by monsters and features infinite slots, though it only accepts items obtained from kills. After these notifications pass, we see Lu Yuan receive the final system prompt. His quest is officially complete. He receives the Celestial Jade Awl, a reward exclusive to the Talisman Master class that can hide his true level. It also boosts all talisman effects by 200%. Having reached level 10, he now unlocks 2 new types of talismans. The first is the Haste Talisman, which increases movement speed by 500% for 10 minutes when applied to the legs. The second is the Vitality Talisman, capable of healing a target for 5 hours of life force, while removing all negative debuffs. Lu Yuan takes a moment to scan the descriptions of these 3 new talismans, noting their impressive utility. He can't help but feel that if S-rank talisman masters are considered weak, it certainly has nothing to do with his EX-rank version. With a simple thought, he opens his personal status window to check his progress. Lu Yuan, age 18, EX-rank talisman master. He is now level 10, with 2,000 health points and a balanced 100 points in strength and defense. His agility is at 100, while his magic power sits at 500 with a mana pool of 1,000, supporting his various talismans. Alongside his 4 new epic grade items, he considers his 2 new talismans. Though they are support-oriented, they are incredibly potent. The Haste Talisman will allow him to avoid being cornered by fast monsters, making it much easier to maintain a safe distance. The Vitality Talisman offers a safety net, as a single charm can restore half his health, an undeniably powerful effect, to be sure. Since he already has the Explosive Talisman for offense, he doesn't feel a desperate need for more attacking skills just yet. He binds the Celestial Jade all to himself, and it immediately masks his presence. To be honest, it's a perfect disguise. Now, even a high-level professional looking at him would only see an ordinary person at level 0. Next, he examines his other gear. The Hearthfire Robe creates a protective barrier against fire for 5 minutes, while the Flood Dragon Sword is a level 30 weapon. Designed for warriors or swordsmen, this epic grade blade grants 500 strength and a significant boost to physical skills. The Flood Dragon Sword deals 30% extra damage to non-boss monsters and features an active skill, while the Flood Dragon Armor is also level 30. Designed for knights and berserkers, this epic grade armor provides a massive 300-point boost to defense. It adds 1,000 health and features a passive reflection skill, returning 5% of all damage taken back to the attacker. Out of these 4 epic items, Lu Yuan realizes he can only wear one, the Hearthfire Robe. Its base stats aren't particularly high. Compared to the others, the numbers seem low, but its active skill, Fire Shield, is, to be perfectly honest, completely broken. It grants 5 minutes of fire immunity, making him invincible within flames. In certain specific situations, this is an absolute game changer. As for the other 3 items, they are powerful, but useless to him. He decides his best move is to sell them once he returns to the city. Lu Yuan is confident they will fetch a handsome price. Epic gear, even at level 30, is a rare find indeed. Their value will surely start in the millions, as killing a level 30 boss usually only yields a single epic drop at most. The reason he secured 4 items today is because this was a first kill, which naturally comes with a massive loot bonus. These items have no complex requirements. As long as your class matches, you can wear them, since they are pre-advancement gear. If they were above level 30, he would have to wait for his next class promotion. For now, Lu Yuan slips on the Hearthfire Robe. He notices the robe has transformed into a rather casual-looking jacket, blending in perfectly with his everyday clothes. It maintains a very relaxed style, and Lu Yuan senses that with a simple thought, he can change its appearance further. He can use this transformation once a day. With the boss defeated, he decides it's time to find a new place to practice his skills. Muttering to himself, Lu Yuan begins to walk out of the dungeon. As he reaches the exit, we see eyes immediately turn toward him. Quite a few people had noticed him when he first entered, even if they didn't know his name. They had seen his level 0. A newly awakened person daring to enter Deadwood Town alone was, in any normal situation, a suicide mission. Naturally, curiosity had kept some people waiting, though many others left after several hours, assuming he had met a grim end. But a few remained, and their jaws drop as they watch Lu Yuan walk out of the dungeon completely unscathed. Naturally, all eyes turn toward him, but when they notice he is still level 0, some can't help but snicker. They assume it was all an act, that Lu Yuan simply hid inside for a few hours before coming back out. While they don't understand the point of such a stunt, it doesn't stop them from laughing. Lu Yuan, however, pays them no mind. Instead, he sets his sights on the dungeon with the shortest queue, noting it's already 2 o'clock and pointless to travel elsewhere. He heads toward the smallest crowd, where most people waiting are level 10 or even level 20. As Lu Yuan joins the line, a man in his 20s asks if he's alone, and Lu Yuan simply nods. The man suggests that as a newly awakened professional, he should really find a power leveling group instead of going solo. He kindly advises him to stick to lower level dungeons for safety, but Lu Yuan politely thanks him, saying he's just there to gain experience. This leaves the man speechless. Entering such a dungeon just to see the sights is, to be honest, flirting with death. It seems like a dangerous joke, but as a stranger, he says no more. People must ultimately face the consequences of their choices. After waiting about 10 minutes, we see the 4 people ahead of him enter the dungeon together. They have clearly chosen to form a party, and as Lu Yuan approaches, he scans the dungeon info, the Evernight Plains. The recommended level is 20, with options for parties or solo play. Lu Yuan, without a second thought, chooses solo mode. A beam of light envelopes him, transporting him to a vast plain where, as the name suggests, it is currently dead of night. A full moon hangs high over the grasslands, making travel easy enough, though Lu Yuan soon notices something different here. He can see other adventurers nearby, as this is a standard dungeon, unlike the exclusive boss dungeon of Deadwood Town. In those exclusive zones, once someone enters, everyone else must wait outside until they either finish or perish. But in an ordinary dungeon like this, everyone shares the same space, though once inside, no new parties can be formed. Hunting monsters to level up here is entirely a matter of individual skill, a true test of one's own strength. The low-level areas are crowded with campers, while the high-level zones offer more experience, but far greater risks. As the danger increases, Lu Yuan scans the endless plains and begins walking toward the depths, having noticed something important. We see that the deeper one goes, the higher the level of the monsters, which consist mostly of wolves that hunt in packs. Because of this, most people here practice in groups, but Lu Yuan simply activates a haste talisman, transforming into a gust of wind. He charges toward the interior. With a 500% speed boost, the other adventurers nearby can barely even see what just flew past them. By the time Lu Yuan reaches the zone for level 15 monsters, he realizes that the crowd has thinned out significantly. In fact, as he pushes further into the high-level territory, he finds that he is now almost entirely alone. Lu Yuan watches the wolf packs wandering the plains, unaware of his presence. As he draws an explosion talisman, it is time to begin the slaughter. With the resources of the Tianheng Chamber of Commerce behind him, Lu Yuan opens the fight by sending out a flurry of talismans. Though he is only level 10, his EX rank growth rate is higher than even an SS rank professional, meaning his base attributes are exceptional. Combined with the power of his Celestial Master's Jade Pendant, a single explosion talisman is nearly enough to kill a level 15 monster. To be safe, Lu Yuan decides to use 2 talismans per target, and with a quiet command, he triggers the detonation. Boom, boom, boom. As he speaks the word, a series of deafening explosions ripple across the plains in rapid succession. As the wolves are torn apart by the blasts, Lu Yuan hears a steady stream of notifications confirming his earned experience points. He gains 50 points for a level 15 crane wolf and 60 points for a level 16 gray wolf. After taking down a level 15 red wolf for another 50 points, Lu Yuan can't help but feel a bit disappointed by the numbers. He tells himself that killing ordinary mobs is a dreadfully slow way to level up, a comment that would likely infuriate any other adventurer. To be honest, most level 10 players only dare to hunt level 7 or 8 monsters, as fighting anything of equal strength is a massive risk. Facing a single monster is one thing, but facing a pack is usually a death sentence, unless one is being carried by a high-level expert. Even then, having a powerful leader means the experience points are split, leaving the newcomer with very little to show for it. Lu Yuan continues his explosive path, and though the wolves initially try to charge him, they find themselves outmatched by his relentless barrage. But the remaining wolves seem to have realized the gap in their strength. They no longer dare to attack, and have turned to flee instead. Their sudden retreat is actually bad news for Lu Yuan, as chasing them down is far less efficient than having them deliver themselves to him. He begins a relentless pursuit across the plains, though he finds the process of hunting them one by one to be quite a tedious chore. As he hunts, the small amounts of experience begin to accumulate, and we see him level up as he pushes even deeper into the wilderness. The strength of the wolf packs increases with the distance, and after 2 hours, Lu Yuan reaches level 12, 2 levels in a single afternoon. Such a speed would be the envy of any other adventurer, yet as he looks around now, he finds that not a single wolf remains in sight. He wonders why these creatures turned out to be so timid, but decides it isn't worth his time to track them further and prepares to head back. Since the journey took 2 hours, he knows the return trip will take just as long, so he turns and begins the trek toward the exit. By the time he finally leaves the dungeon, dusk has already fallen, and he begins the long drive back home under the evening sky. Checking his professional inventory, Lu Yuan notes that besides the 3 epic items he kept to sell, he has gathered quite a bit of loot. There are several pieces of common and fine equipment. Even ordinary mobs have a small chance to drop items, though they are rarely high quality. Finding fine gear is usually a stroke of luck, as drops are strictly ranked from common and fine up to epic, legendary, and mythical. Naturally, he has no use for these low-level items and doesn't even bother to inspect them individually, which is a bit of a flex, really. He plans to bundle them all together when he goes to sell the epic gear tomorrow. However, upon arriving home, he notices something unexpected. The Lu family next door is in the middle of moving. While Lu Shuang is nowhere to be seen, her parents and a moving crew are busy at work. As Lu Yuan reaches his door, Uncle Lu spots him and quickly walks over, calling out for him to wait because he needs to speak with him. Lu Yuan hesitates for a moment, but ultimately stops and turns around, maintaining his usual polite and calm demeanor. With a small smile, he asks if something is wrong, only for Uncle Lu to mention that their family has done him a great wrong regarding Shuang. Uncle Lu offers a solemn apology, bowing deeply toward the young man, but Lu Yuan quickly reaches out to steady him. He tells the older man that there is truly nothing to apologize for, as he has already moved past the entire situation. Uncle Lu, there is no need to talk about who owes whom. Everyone has their own path to walk, and I respect her choice. You are a good-hearted young man, and I believe you will find someone better, Uncle Lu says, to which Lu Yuan politely replies that he appreciates the kind words. As Lu Yuan bids him farewell, Uncle Lu turns back to his work. We can assume that with Long Haoqing's help, the family is moving up in the world. They are likely heading to the wealthy district now, but Lu Yuan feels no lingering resentment toward them, not even toward Lu Shuang herself. As long as she doesn't go out of her way to provoke him, he couldn't care less. However, if she insists on making a scene, he won't be so forgiving. Uncle Lu is a level 30 professional, but because he lacks both the strength and the funds to complete his class advancement quest, he has been stuck. He was forced to remain in the civilian district, and Lu Yuan knows the quality of life here all too well. After all, no one stays here by choice. After a simple meal and a quick wash, he heads to bed early to rest. The next day, we find him heading toward the city's professional plaza. The professional plaza is the heart of commerce, where every shop and stall deals exclusively in items related to the various classes. The equipment auction houses are located here as well, and the architecture and streets are nothing short of magnificent, luxurious, even. It is a world away from the civilian district, and Lu Yuan, dressed in his cheap, everyday clothes, looks a bit out of place here. But he doesn't mind the stares. In this world, strength is a person's true foundation, and with enough power, everything else follows. He walks with confidence into the city's largest auction house, the Tianjin Chamber of Commerce, ready to do some serious business. As he approaches the counter, the receptionist gives him a quick glance before offering a practiced, professional smile. She asks if he is there to buy or sell equipment, and when Lu Yuan indicates he is selling, she politely asks him to present the items. Our Tianjin Chamber will offer you a fair and satisfying price, she says sincerely, maintaining the high standards the establishment is known for. To become the largest trade hub in the city, they have naturally mastered the art of top-tier service for every customer who walks through the door. It is a simple philosophy, really. Treat everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance, because you never know who might be hiding their true power. Spending a few minutes on a commoner is a small price to pay compared to the disaster of offending a hidden master through a poor attitude. That would be a truly costly mistake, and so, with a casual wave of his hand, Lu Yuan begins to reveal what he has brought. He begins placing the equipment from his backpack onto the counter, 15 pieces in total, 3 of which are shimmering with a dazzling purple light. The moment she sees that purple glow, the receptionist's eyes widen in shock. She realizes these are epic-grade items, something she rarely encounters. The best equipment she usually handles is only high-grade, especially since she finished her training and started working here less than 3 months ago. During her training, she had heard stories from a senior colleague about such rare finds, but seeing them in person is another matter entirely. Suppressing her excitement, she carefully explains to Lu Yuan that for epic-grade equipment, they must call in one of the chamber's expert appraisers. Lu Yuan nods in agreement, and the receptionist quickly picks up the phone to explain the situation to her superiors. About 5 minutes later, a man in his 50s wearing gold-rimmed glasses arrives at the counter, looking every bit the seasoned professional. He is accompanied by 2 bodyguards whose strength Lu Yuan cannot pinpoint, though he is certain they have already completed their class advancements. As soon as the middle-aged man arrives, his attention is completely captured by the 3 pieces of epic equipment lying on the counter. After staring at the gear for a long moment, he finally turns his gaze toward Lu Yuan and asks if he is the one who brought them in. Lu Yuan nods, but the older man studies him closely, noting that he is only level 12, a detail that clearly gives him pause. He finds it hard to believe that a level 12 professional could kill a boss, even one of the lowest possible rank. Even a level 10 boss would be a stretch, and he can already sense from a distance that these items didn't come from a low-level monster. Lu Yuan had intentionally revealed his level to avoid the unnecessary trouble that might come from appearing to have no power at all. However, regarding the old man's unspoken suspicion, Lu Yuan decides it is best to provide a plausible explanation for his presence. He claims that a senior expert asked him to sell the gear and hints that there will be more in the future, a clever bit of misdirection. He certainly won't admit he killed the monsters himself. In a world where the law is loose, such a truth would only invite danger. Even inside the city, life can be cheap, so inventing a powerful, mysterious benefactor is a much safer way to handle his business. The man, who introduces himself as Song Yi, seems pleased by the prospect of a long-term partnership with such a source. When asked for his name, our protagonist simply replies, Lu Yuan, and Song Yi asks him to wait patiently while the appraisal begins. Lu Yuan agrees to let him appraise the equipment, and Song Yi falls silent, focusing entirely on the task at hand. As he examines the items, we see him take a sharp, deep breath of pure astonishment. Level 30 epic-grade equipment is incredibly valuable, essentially representing the endgame gear for anyone before their first-class advancement. The stats are so high they could even be used after the advancement. After all, level 30 is a significant hurdle in this world. Nearly 80% of awakened individuals find themselves stuck at level 30 because the advancement quests are notoriously difficult to complete. Without completing that quest, no matter how many monsters you kill, you simply won't level up, a frustrating limit, to be sure. If humans could level up infinitely without such barriers, they likely would have wiped out every monster in the wild long ago. The appraiser's job is to calculate the value based on stat gains and the strength of active skills. After a long silence, he finishes. Song Yi finally looks up at Lu Yuan and speaks with a tone of profound gravity. He explains that these 3 pieces are top tier, and the Skywalk Chamber will promote them for 3 days before the auction. He proposes a starting price of 1 million, and Lu Yuan, hearing this staggering figure, agrees immediately. This is the first time our protagonist truly realizes how easily money flows when one possesses absolute strength. He thinks of his father's old team. If they had managed to kill such a beast, even a single piece of gear would have changed their lives. With that money, they could have left the slums forever. Song Yi then mentions the chamber will take a 5% commission. Lu Yuan remains calm on the outside, but deep down, he is quite surprised by this offer. From his studies at school, he knows that auction houses typically charge a 10% fee, not 5%. He realizes there is only one explanation. They are offering a discount to ensure a long-term partnership with his benefactor. Song Yi instructs the receptionist, Xiao Sun, to issue Lu Yuan a VIP card so he can attend the auction in 3 days. He also tells her to settle the payment for the other equipment Lu Yuan brought in. Yes, Elder Song, she replies respectfully. Song Yi leaves with the 3 epic items, while the receptionist quickly begins processing the remaining common and fine-grade gear. The value of the remaining gear is significantly lower, totaling only 5,000 yuan, as Xiao Sun finishes processing Lu Yuan's VIP card. She hands it over, and Lu Yuan notices the serial number is 72, meaning that in this entire city, The Skywalk Chamber has only issued 72 of these exclusive cards. Taking his money and the card, he finally departs. He hails a taxi directly to the city gates to continue his training, heading this time toward Dungeon Zone 1. We see that he has a specific destination in mind, and fortunately, he encounters no familiar faces along the way today. By the time he arrives at the dungeon zone, it is already noon, and he walks toward a dungeon with a particularly long queue. From his time at school, he remembers the locations and traits of these areas. This one is for levels 10 to 20 and contains a boss. However, the boss appearance is random, requiring a bit of luck, and Lu Yuan already knows the massive difference a boss makes. The experience gap is simply too large to ignore. To level up quickly, hunting bosses is the only logical path. If the Deadwood Town dungeon wasn't limited to a single clear per person, he certainly would have returned there every single day. As Lu Yuan waits in line, a young woman soon approaches and takes her place directly behind him. She looks like a recent graduate herself, currently at level 10, with a delicate and somewhat fragile appearance. She reminds one of a pampered lapdog, and sure enough, a man and a woman quickly follow to join her. These two are both level 20, the maximum allowed for this dungeon, and the situation becomes clear to Lu Yuan immediately. This is likely a young lady from a wealthy family out to gain some easy experience, so he turns back to his own business. After a long wait, the people in front finally enter, but as he prepares to step forward, the girl behind him calls out. She asks if he is alone, assuming from his age that he is also a student who has just recently graduated. Lu Yuan turns and asks if there is a problem, to which she quickly shakes her head and says there isn't. She simply wants to invite him to join her party, causing Lu Yuan to glance at the two level 20 guardians behind her. He asks her why, as he is well aware that strangers rarely offer help to those who haven't even asked for it. She explains that if he joins them, a 4-person party significantly increases the boss encounter rate, and they originally had a full group. However, their 4th member had a sudden emergency and couldn't make it, so seeing Lu Yuan alone, she offers him the spot. So that was the reason. Lu Yuan finds this quite interesting, noting that the two guardians would likely handle all the heavy lifting. She tells him with a sweet, soft smile that he can just relax while they carry him. She really is quite charming. But then, one of the guardians adds that with 4 people, the boss spawn rate hits 90%, a fact Lu Yuan likely learned in school. He won't even need to lift a finger to get his share of experience, though they make it clear that any boss drops belong to them. Lu Yuan agrees to join, but on one condition. The party leadership must be transferred to him, as the leader claims 50% of the experience. The rest of the party would split the remaining half. Lu Yuan's reasoning is simple. This dungeon treats solo, duo, and group entries as separate instances. By killing the group boss first, he would still have the chance to find and hunt the boss again in a solo or duo run later. The man's tone turns sharp, asking if Lu Yuan is pushing his luck after the young lady was kind enough to invite him. He suggests Lu Yuan is being ungrateful. To be honest, it does look like he's taking advantage of their kindness, but Lu Yuan isn't worried. He calmly states that making him leader isn't a bad deal, as he has a counteroffer that might benefit them all. He proposes that after they clear this, he will personally take the girl through the duo mode dungeon to hunt monsters. It's a trade. The man is nearly laughing with rage, pointing out that Lu Yuan is only level 12, hardly in a position to treat this dungeon like a joke. He feels like he should have checked his horoscope before leaving today, but the girl, surprisingly serious, tells Wang Hu to listen to him. Wang Hu is stunned by the command. It seems like a ridiculous joke to him, but the young lady remains perfectly composed. She isn't in a rush and explains that she is willing to transfer the leadership to him under one specific condition. Once inside, he must prove his worth and show he actually has the ability to carry her through the next dungeon as promised. If he fails to prove himself, she warns that her CF family can easily take back whatever advantage he gained today. Lu Yuan readily agrees. At the same time, he wonders about that name. The founder of the Skywalk Chamber was a man named Xie Tianxing. Could she be related? Lu Yuan couldn't help but glance back, sensing a sharp gaze fixed on them from a distance, a gaze that felt far too deliberate. It confirmed his suspicions that they weren't alone. I'm Xie Feier, and you? She asked curiously. He simply replied, Lu Yuan. After that brief introduction, they approached the dungeon entrance, Mount Wu, a level 20 zone with solo, duo, and group options. Lu Yuan selected the group mode, and a management interface immediately popped up, listing him as the party leader. We see his stats, a level 12 S-rank Spirit Master, with 3 empty slots waiting to be filled. He began sending out the invites. He invited Xie Feier first. As she joined, the screen displayed their roles. Leader Lu Yuan, level 12 S-rank Spirit Master, and member Xie Feier, a level 10 S-rank Divine Healer. However, seeing Lu Yuan's specific profession caused her expression to stiffen slightly. Despite her doubts, she didn't back out. She told herself that if he performed poorly, she could always settle the score later. He then pulled the 2 guardians in, Wang Hu, a level 20 Great Swordsman, and Zhang Yu, a level 20 Dual Gunner. The moment they joined, they noticed something was very wrong with Lu Yuan's stats, but as it turned out, they were too late to complain. Before they could utter a word, Lu Yuan confirmed the entry. In the blink of an eye, the 4 of them arrived at the foot of Mount Wu. On this mountain, jackals and wolves rule the paths, while the final boss is a ferocious tiger that prowls the heights. The mountain is a dangerous place where predators roam, and finding that elusive tiger is never a simple task. Every group entering the dungeon is assigned to a specific peak, and their entire field of activity is limited to that single mountain. If the tiger is on your peak, you hunt. If not, you simply clear the wolves and leave. A bit anticlimactic, perhaps. All around them, other jagged peaks stood like lonely islands rising out of a vast, swirling sea of mist. Lu Yuan knew that encountering a boss here meant there was likely more than one. But before he could plan, Wang Hu spoke up. Lu Yuan, right? You've got a lot of nerve. Wang Hu sneered. I expected a powerful class, but you're just a spirit master? He demanded to know how Lu Yuan planned to carry them. Xie Feier remained silent, her eyes asking for an explanation. You'll see once we're up there, Lu Yuan replied, too bored to explain further as he began the trek up the mountain. In his mind, the time spent explaining could be better used hunting monsters, so Lu Yuan simply began walking ahead with quiet confidence. Watching him, CFA'er couldn't help but wonder if he truly possessed some hidden, formidable power. "Miss, we should head up too," Zhang Yu suggested. The three of them quickly followed, and after venturing only a dozen meters into the mountain, Lu Yuan spotted his first targets. Two black wolves were prowling toward them, their bodies shrouded in a strange, soot-like black mist that drifted through the air. It was an ominous sight, to be sure. These creatures were level 16, and that was just at the foot of the mountain. This challenge actually pleased Lu Yuan. Not wanting to waste a single second, he raised his hand and sent two talismans flying toward the wolves. With two thunderous booms, the black wolves collapsed instantly. He had taken down two level 16 threats in a single breath. The notifications flashed. He had killed the level 16 black wolves and gained 30 experience points for each kill. Normally, if he were alone, those two wolves would have granted him a full 120 points. Efficiency has its price, it seems. This was exactly why Lu Yuan disliked party play. Even as the leader, he only received half the experience. Meanwhile, the others finally caught up. They arrived just in time to see him casually one-shot the wolves, and a moment later, their own experience notifications popped up. The three of them received 10 points each, but at this point, the experience was the last thing on their minds, even for Wang Hu. To be perfectly honest, without using the high-end gear provided by the Xie family, even Wang Hu couldn't guarantee an instant kill on those wolves. Xie didn't hide her curiosity, asking what kind of talismans he used. Don't spirit masters need to draw symbols and chant spells? She wondered aloud. Lu Yuan simply told her they were prepared in advance. Prepared in advance? Won't they lose their power? Wang Hu asked skeptically. Wang Hu noted that, from what he knew, a spirit master's charms lose their effectiveness after a few hours. Lu Yuan merely glanced at him. And how many spirit masters have you actually met to claim such understanding? Lu Yuan countered, leaving Wang Hu momentarily speechless. The truth was, he hadn't met any. His knowledge came entirely from rumors and the internet. A common mistake, really. Sensing the tension, Zhang Yu stepped in to smooth things over, explaining they didn't mean to doubt him. They were just curious about his methods. Since Lu Yuan planned to take the young lady into a duo dungeon later, Zhang Yu wanted to know exactly how many of those talismans he had in stock. Zhang Yu's question was clever. It addressed his own concerns while gracefully changing the subject to save Wang Hu from further embarrassment. "I have enough to level several mist mountains. Is that sufficient?" Lu Yuan countered. Zhang Yu admitted it was, provided they worked as intended. Zhang Yu noted they still needed to see if these talismans could actually kill a boss. Naturally, Lu Yuan replied, "I promised you proof." This was all part of the demonstration. Lu Yuan understood the Taoist's hesitation, because if he couldn't easily dispatch a boss, if he couldn't take down a major threat with ease, then Zhang Yu and Wang Hu would have a serious problem on their hands. Allowing Xie to enter a duo dungeon with him would be like pushing her into a fire. "That's fair then," they agreed. "Any equipment dropped by the monsters this time will also belong to you," Zhang Yu added, still testing Lu Yuan's true capabilities. "We see a massive beast eyeing the four of them like a delivered meal, but Lu Yuan simply pointed his finger forward with calm intent. A flurry of talismans flew toward the fierce tiger. Facing a level 20 boss, Lu Yuan took no chances and decided to end it quickly. He unleashed over 1,000 explosive charms at once. Then, with a whispered command to detonate, a series of massive roars shook the air. The tiger boss was caught in the blast, its flesh torn as it let out a pained howl. It charged toward Lu Yuan in a fit of rage, but Lu Yuan could see the creature was already at its limit. There was no need to block. The beast roared as it lunged forward one last time. It finally collapsed just 2 meters away from Lu Yuan. A moment later, the notification for a successful kill echoed in his mind. He had defeated the Lord of Mist Mountain, earning 1,000 experience points and reaching level 13. A significant milestone, to be sure. With those 1,000 points added to his previous total, Lu Yuan finally felt the surge of power that comes with hitting level 13. He quietly checked his status panel. Lu Yuan, age 18, profession EX rank Talisman Master, currently at level 13. His experience sat at 210 out of 3,000, with 2,600 health and 160 strength. His defense and agility were also at 160, while his magic reached 650 with 1,300 mana. His arsenal now included explosive, haste, and chi refining talismans. Looking at these numbers, Lu Yuan began to grasp his own growth rate. He realized that with every level, his health increased by 200, while his strength, defense, and agility each grew by 20. His magic increased by 50 and mana by 100. He couldn't help but wonder how much those stats would jump once he reached level 20 or 30. He felt a surge of anticipation. For an EX rank profession, the growth potential alone was staggering. It was enough to create a massive gap between him and ordinary classes. He then glanced at the loot dropped by the Lord of Mist Mountain. Only 2 items. They were merely high-grade pieces, and being only level 20 gear, Lu Yuan didn't even bother to examine them closely. He figured he would just sell them to the Tianqing Chamber of Commerce later. When he turned around, he found CF and the others frozen in shock. Several minutes had passed since the boss died, yet they still hadn't snapped out of it. To be honest, what they had just witnessed was a lot to process. It was a total assault on their worldview. After all, it had been nearly 300 years since the era of professional awakening began. The idea that talisman masters were a useless class was deeply rooted in society, but today, they watched Lu Yuan tear that belief to shreds. The shock in their hearts wouldn't settle easily. Finally, it was Wang Hu who managed to stammer out, "Brother Lu Yuan, are you truly a talisman master?" Lu Yuan simply countered by asking if he thought the team's registration info could be faked. Wang Hu shook his head vigorously like a wave. He then lowered his head toward Lu Yuan and offered a sincere, heartfelt apology. "Brother Lu Yuan, I failed to recognize your greatness. Please don't hold it against me." Lu Yuan assured him he wasn't the petty type. With the boss dealt with, the remaining scattered monsters would likely stay hidden. Lu Yuan suggested it was time to leave the dungeon. Wang Hu cupped his hands in gratitude. Meanwhile, Zhang Yu, ever the cautious one, leaned in to ask a specific question. He wanted to know if Lu Yuan had enough talismans left to clear the Mist Mountain dungeon one more time. Zhang Yu needed to be absolutely certain that Xie Feier would be safe alone with him. Naturally, Lu Yuan replied calmly. He asked rhetorically if they thought he would gamble with his own life without being prepared. Zhang Yu finally entrusted the lady's safety to him. The four of them descended and reached the foot of the mountain. After exiting, Lu Yuan and Xie Feier finally entered the duo dungeon together. While Lu Yuan had reached level 13, Xie Feier had also climbed to level 11. Now, with just the two of them in a party, the leader would take 60% of the experience while the member took 40. Once inside, the usually quiet Xie Feier was the first to speak. She turned to Lu Yuan and asked if the talismans he used were actually pre-stored. "And what makes you think that?" Lu Yuan asked with an amused smile. She noted that while Wang Hu and the others lacked experience, she recognized the explosive talismans he had just deployed. Those specific talismans can only be stored for 6 hours at most. After that, they detonate automatically even without a command. Xie Feier spoke with a serious tone, prompting Lu Yuan to remark on her extensive knowledge before asking why she assumed he was like any other talisman master. He countered her point, but she insisted he was different because his talismans were far more powerful and generated with incredible speed. It seemed as though he required no preparation at all, no drawing of symbols, and no channeling of spiritual energy. The speed at which he produced them was staggering, appearing to bypass the need for any traditional incantations or rituals. Lu Yuan complimented her sharp intuition, though he added that she didn't really need to understand the mechanics of his power. He chuckled softly, telling her she should be glad he wasn't a villain, or speaking to him alone like this might have cost her her life. Xie Feier thanked him playfully for sparing her and agreed to drop the subject, suggesting they head up the mountain now that she had confirmed her suspicions. She smiled brightly, showing no sign of fear whatsoever. To be honest, she had no reason to be afraid of him. While her profession was that of a divine healer, essentially a support role, the Xie family would never let their young lady face such risks unprotected. She carried several pieces of life-saving equipment, giving her the confidence that she could protect herself if things turned sour. Lu Yuan gave a brief nod and began the ascent. He had initially wondered if her silence was due to shyness, but he saw the truth now. She had spent the entire time analyzing him. Realizing she was perhaps a bit too clever for comfort, he decided to finish the dungeon as quickly as possible. As they climbed, sea wolves appeared continuously, but Lu Yuan dispatched them with effortless ease. Meanwhile, Xie Feier followed behind, cheerfully cheering him on. She had become significantly more lively than she was before. Whether it was Lu Yuan's luck or hers, they reached the halfway point of the mountain only to encounter a familiar disturbance. The winds howled as the Lord of Mist Mountain attacked once again, looking exactly like the one they had just defeated. Lu Yuan simply raised his hand and hurled an explosive talisman. The boss fell instantly, and with that, the auction was ready to begin. Having successfully slain the second-tier Lord of Mist Mountain, he gained 1,200 experience points. After receiving this boost, Lu Yuan found himself standing on the very threshold of a level up. After gaining those 1,200 points, he was now just one step away from his goal, with his experience progress reaching 2,750 out of 3,000. Upon checking the loot, we see that his luck was quite good this time. One piece of high-grade equipment and one top-tier item. Unfortunately, the top-tier item was a long spear meant for spearmen or knights, which was useless to Lu Yuan. "Let's leave this place," he suggested. Lu Yuan turned to Xie Feier and proposed they exchange contact information, suggesting they could team up if any two-person dungeons appeared in the future. Xie Feier agreed to the idea of a duo team, but she had one condition. He must keep her secrets, just as there are many duo dungeons to explore. Lu Yuan knew that if he wanted to enter those dungeons, he would definitely need a partner. Finding someone else would mean explaining his powers all over again. Since that was the case, why not just continue working with Xie Feier? He agreed, and she immediately gave a happy impression of approval. She was well aware of Lu Yuan's secret, the fact that he could effortlessly produce massive quantities of explosive talismans. Revealing such a secret would certainly bring Lu Yuan some unfavorable consequences, but it wouldn't benefit her at all. Naturally, she wasn't the type to do something so petty. After the two of them exchanged contact info, they finally stepped out of the dungeon. As they emerged into the light, Wang Hu and Zhang Yu quickly stepped forward. "Brother Lu, did you encounter the boss?" Wang Hu asked with genuine curiosity. "We did, thanks to your young lady's good luck," Lu Yuan said with a smile. Wang Hu congratulated him and thanked him for carrying her through the run. Lu Yuan dismissed the thanks as a small matter, mentioned he was heading back to the solo dungeons, and bid them farewell. Not long after Lu Yuan departed, a middle-aged man approached. Seeing him, Wang Hu and the others immediately bowed in greeting. "Mr. Zhang," they said, as Feier looked on. "I've just investigated Lu Yuan's background," Mr. Zhang began. "He's a student from Zhuqing First High, a kid from the slums who awakened in S-Class Talisman Master Class." He continued, noting that Lu Yuan's girlfriend had awakened as an SS-Class Ice Mage. On the very day of their awakening, she broke up with him for money. She had left him to be with Long Haochen instead. Mr. Zhang arrived and laid out Lu Yuan's entire situation directly to Xie Feier. As we learn about Lu Yuan's past alongside Xie Feier, she was surprised to hear such a story. It seemed his former girlfriend was quite the character. "Her taste is clearly lacking," Xie Feier remarked with disdain. As a woman herself, she had no respect for someone who would abandon a partner so heartlessly. It certainly isn't great, Mr. Zheng agreed. He then added that Lu Yuan had apparently visited their Skywalk Chamber of Commerce to sell equipment, the very items currently being advertised. Those 3 epic-grade items led Mr. Zheng to suspect that Lu Yuan had a powerful master guiding him from the shadows. Yes, a hidden mentor seemed the only logical explanation. CFAer wondered quietly if some grandmaster had finally found a way to overcome the limitations of the talisman class. Meanwhile, we see Lu Yuan entering Mist Mountain alone. He fought his way up the slopes, clearing everything in his path to the summit, but unfortunately, he couldn't find the boss. Eventually, he had no choice but to leave the mountain. By the time he emerged, it was getting late, so he decided to head home for the night. He would have to settle for level 14 for now and rest up. The following morning, Lu Yuan set out once again to practice in other dungeons. After successfully clearing 2 more of them, Lu Yuan finally reached level 15. Along with the level up, he was rewarded with a brand new spell, the Heavenly Thunder Talisman. This skill summons a bolt of divine lightning to strike enemies. It is particularly effective against evil spirits and demons, dealing double the usual damage. It was another offensive talisman, and one with a specialized edge against the supernatural. To be honest, that is a very useful niche to cover. Since a vast number of monsters fall into the category of evil spirits or demons, Lu Yuan was overjoyed. Having another tool in his arsenal was a welcome development. If he encountered enemies that his explosive talismans couldn't handle, he could now use the 5 thunders. He spent the rest of the day grinding through dungeons. However, without any boss encounters, he didn't manage to level up again that day. Eventually, the morning arrived when Lu Yuan prepared for his usual solo runs. But time flies, and the day of the Skywalk Chamber of Commerce auction had finally arrived. Yes, the long-awaited event was finally here. The auction was set for 8 o'clock in the evening. Lu Yuan made sure to head out on time, even dressing himself in a set of fresh clothes for the occasion. Over the last 3 days, although he hadn't found any more epic gear like he did in the Well of Sand, he had collected several high-grade items. Those top-tier drops had earned him tens of thousands of credits. With money in his pocket, he naturally wanted to improve his living conditions. After 3 days of training, Lu Yuan had successfully reached level 17. We follow him as he arrives outside the Skywalk Chamber of Commerce's grand auction house. He noticed that the crowd attending the auction was exceptionally large. Along the way, he overheard countless people discussing the event. Everyone was speculating about who would walk away with those epic grade items tonight. Seeing such high levels of excitement, Lu Yuan was, naturally, quite pleased. The more people fighting over the gear, the better it was for him. Soon, Lu Yuan arrived at the main entrance, but just as he reached the doors, he spotted 2 people who were a complete eyesore. They were none other than Long Haoqing and Lu Shuangshuang. Lu Yuan noted their current levels. Both were level 10. To be fair, that was actually quite a fast pace for most people. However, at this rate, they would never reach level 30 within a month. As we know, the higher the level, the slower the progress becomes. The pair were about to head inside when Shuangshuang caught sight of Lu Yuan. She gave Haoqing a light nudge to get his attention. Haoqing turned his head immediately and looked toward Lu Yuan. A bright, mocking smile quickly spread across his face. He walked over as if they were old friends, asking Lu Yuan if he'd lost his way. He wondered aloud what Lu Yuan could possibly be doing here. He mockingly asked if Lu Yuan was actually planning to enter the auction to buy something. His tone was, quite frankly, as punchable as it gets. Lu Yuan fired back, asking if young Master Long had taken a part-time job as a doorman who needed to question everyone passing by. Shuangshuang stepped forward, claiming Haoqing was only looking out for him. She explained that entering the auction required proof of 1 million credits in cash. She warned him that if he were stopped at the door for lacking the funds, it would be quite embarrassing. Yes, she was very concerned about his dignity. This kind reminder was delivered in a voice so loud that everyone in the surrounding area could hear her clearly. Sensing some drama, the crowd began to gather. Many recognized Haoqing, and based on the conversation, they started to piece things together. The onlookers quickly guessed Lu Yuan's situation and watched curiously to see how he would respond. Lu Yuan simply asked if his embarrassment wasn't exactly what they wanted. He told Shuangshuang that while she was free to leave him, if she kept trying to play these petty games, he would stop showing restraint. He warned her not to make him disregard the respect he had for her father. At this, Shuangshuang immediately put on a look of deep grievance. Haoqing pulled her into a gentle embrace, telling her not to lower herself to Lu Yuan's level. He then decided to have Lu Yuan removed entirely. He turned to the nearby guards and called them over, claiming Lu Yuan was just a poor kid trying to sneak into the auction house. He ordered them to kick him out. The guards, recognizing Haoqing as the young master of the Long family, began to approach. Naturally, they felt they had to give face to a member of the Long family. Upon reaching Lu Yuan, the guard spoke to him firmly. The guard approached and asked if he intended to enter the auction. Lu Yuan simply nodded, prompting the man to explain the entry requirements. He stated firmly that a proof of assets was indeed required. After all, allowing people without the necessary funds into the auction would be risky. If someone were to place random bids they couldn't cover, it would cause chaos. Lu Yuan calmly asked if his card would suffice as proof. He pulled a VIP card from his pocket and held it out. The moment the guard's eyes landed on that card, his entire demeanor shifted. He was visibly startled. Working here, he had seen many VIP cards before, and he knew instantly that Lu Yuan's was the real deal. There was no possibility of it being a fake. Besides, in this city, no one would dare forge a card from the Tianqing Chamber of Commerce. The guard immediately bowed in apology, admitting he had been incredibly rude and begging for Lu Yuan's understanding. Lu Yuan told him it was fine. He noted that the man was just doing his job. However, as Lu Yuan turned back toward Long Haoqing, he added that there was another issue. He pointed out that some people who didn't even work there seemed strangely anxious. Haoqing, meanwhile, shouted that the guards shouldn't believe him. He insisted Lu Yuan was just a poor kid from the slums and couldn't possibly own a VIP card. He was desperate for the guard to stop him. Seeing the situation slip away, Shuang grew frantic as well. She stepped forward to personally guarantee the guard that Lu Yuan was a nobody. She argued that since he grew up in the slums, a VIP card was impossible. Even if the card were real, she had a different theory. She claimed he must have found it and suggested the name wouldn't even match. Seeing her so flustered and desperate was almost pathetic. Lu Yuan found the whole display quite amusing. But before he could speak, a cold voice cut through the air, asking the young lady who she thought she was. The voice sharply asked if she intended to start giving orders to the Tianqing Chamber of Commerce, or if they were no longer capable of checking their own guests. We hear a familiar voice, and as Lu Yuan looks over, he sees a familiar face. Today, she is dressed in a charming dress and white stockings. She looked even more elegant than before. This was Xia Feier, and she wasn't alone. A cold-faced, professional bodyguard in a suit followed closely behind. The bodyguard clearly possessed the strength of a class awakened. Shuang realized instantly that these were people she couldn't afford to provoke. She stammered out an explanation, claiming she didn't mean any harm and was only trying to help, but she wasn't allowed to finish. Xia Feier cut her off, noting that she was simply someone who loved wealth and abandoned her partner because she thought he couldn't provide for her. And so, she broke up with him. It's truly laughable that she still calls herself his childhood friend when she clearly knows nothing about him. Xia Feier finished speaking and walked over to Lu Yuan's side. She told him that if he minded their presence, she could have them banned from entering. As soon as those words left her mouth, the onlookers couldn't help but gasp. Most people here recognized exactly who Xia Feier was. She was the jewel of the Tianqing Chamber of Commerce. If she said someone was banned, they were truly banned. Naturally, everyone was left wondering one thing. Why exactly was she helping Lu Yuan? Had she taken a liking to him, or did Lu Yuan possess some hidden talent they couldn't see? Meanwhile, Long Haoqing's face turned a sickly shade of iron blue. Back in school, he had desperately pursued Shuang while she was still Lu Yuan's girlfriend. Now, because Shuang saw no potential in Lu Yuan, she had revealed her true nature and followed him instead. A classic tale of shallow choices, really. He had intended to use this to flaunt his success in front of Lu Yuan. But now, it seems Xia Feier not only knew Lu Yuan, but was quite fond of him. She was even speaking up for him in public, suggesting a very deep connection. We must remember that for someone like Haoqing, a woman like Xia Feier was out of reach. She was someone he wouldn't even dare to dream about. In this moment, Haoqing felt his pride quietly shattering into 1,000 pieces. He looked toward Lu Yuan with visible nerves. If Lu Yuan actually took Xia Feier up on her offer to kick them out, he didn't dare imagine the consequences. He knew that if they were humiliated today, he wouldn't hear the end of it back home. Lu Yuan, however, simply shook his head at the choice he was given. He told her to let it be, noting they were only there to support the chamber's business. After all, the Long family was quite wealthy. Among the 3 items he had put up for auction, one was a perfect fit for Shuang. Lu Yuan was certain of one thing. Haoqing wouldn't be able to resist bidding everything to get it. That meant a massive payout, and Lu Yuan was no fool. He wasn't about to let that money go. Xia Feier smiled, noting that since Mr. Lu was so generous, they would leave it at that. She then invited him to enter the venue with her. This gesture sparked even more curious whispers among the crowd, and many began to look at Lu Yuan with pure envy. He decided to accept the invitation. Since Xia Feier had gone out of her way to help him, refusing now would be quite rude. Together, they stepped into the grand hall of the auction house. The moment they entered, Lu Yuan truly understood the meaning of opulence. He turned to his companion and offered his sincere thanks. To be honest, he could have handled the situation without her, but he had to admit that Xia Feier's appearance had made things much simpler. Seeing the shifting expressions on the faces of Shuang and Haoqing gave him a certain satisfaction. After all, they were teammates now. Was a thank you even necessary? Xia Feier asked with a playful tilt of her head. Lu Yuan laughed easily, suggesting he head to his box while she handled her own business. She agreed. He nodded, acknowledging she likely had much to attend to. Once Xia Feier departed, Lu Yuan made a direct line for his private VIP suite. Arriving at the door, he swiped his VIP card and stepped inside. Almost immediately, a server arrived with an attitude so professional it was almost startling. It made Lu Yuan realize exactly why the Tianqing Chamber of Commerce was so successful. With service like this, anyone would be impressed. However, Lu Yuan was really only here as an observer. He had little interest in the equipment being auctioned today, partly because he was currently short on funds. Furthermore, high-quality gear was rare here. He figured if others could find it, he could certainly find it himself without spending a fortune. A practical mindset, really. While Lu Yuan waited in his suite, we moved to another box nearby. Xia Feier entered with a bright smile, calling out to a woman she called Sister Qin. She correctly guessed that her friend had come specifically for the sword. Inside the box sat an elegant young woman, her posture perfectly straight and refined. She possessed a heroic, spirited aura and stood quite a bit taller than Xia Feier. Her beautiful face held a hint of coldness, but that soon changed. Upon seeing Xia Feier, her expression softened like melting snow, offering a smile as warm as a spring breeze. She asked Feier what brought her there. Feier admitted she had come specifically to see her, then curiously asked what level Sister Qin had reached by now. The young woman replied that she was level 16. Feier couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy at her friend's ability to level up on her own. Unlike her friend, Feier lacked offensive skills and was forced to rely on teams. Unlike that fool Haoqing, her friend reminded her that her profession was different. In the future, people would be begging to join her group. Even for high-risk dungeons, her friend admitted she would eventually need Feier's help to survive. The girl surnamed Qin joked that when that time came, Feier shouldn't reject her. To be honest, Feier's divine healer class was quite special. While its true power wasn't fully apparent yet, its value would only skyrocket as her level increased. It was a late-game powerhouse in the making. It was no exaggeration to say that although it was only SS rank, its utility was equal to any other top-tier class. Feier, of course, remained humble. She told Sister Qin she would be ready to team up whenever she was needed, provided her level could keep up, she added with a cute smile. As the atmosphere shifted, Sister Qin noted the auction was about to begin. She wondered aloud just how many people would be fighting over that sword today. Feier laughed, telling Sister Qin that if she simply spoke up, no one would dare compete with her. Her friend jokingly complained that Feier made her sound like a neighborhood bully. Feier insisted she was only telling the truth. If Sister Qin wanted that sword, she imagined many young noblemen in Zhucheng would step aside just to please her. She noted that not everyone was as difficult as the Long family. The young woman, whose surname was Qin, simply shook her head at the thought. She knew exactly how powerful that sword was, and she expected a fierce struggle for it today. Meanwhile, Lu Yuan waited patiently for about 20 minutes. The auction finally began. At first, the items presented were high-quality equipment, the kind of top-tier gear that actually deserved a place on an auction block. Most of these items were for higher levels, specifically those past the first job transition, like level 50 gear. Their value was quite high, naturally. Of course, they couldn't compare to the equipment Lu Yuan had in his possession. He paid little attention to the early bidding until the host spoke again. And here, Lu Yuan finally perked up. The host announced the next item, an epic-grade piece of equipment known as the Flood Dragon Staff. The host noted that everyone had likely studied its value over the last 3 days. Its functions were so famous they hardly needed an explanation. It was an item that would be incredibly useful for any mage. To be honest, its reputation alone was enough to stir the crowd's excitement. The starting price was set at 1 million, with minimum increases of 10,000. And with that, the bidding war officially began. As soon as the host finished speaking, the bids started flying in. We hear shouts of 1.1 million, then 1.3 million in rapid succession. The price jumped to 1.5 million, and then a voice boldly called out 2 million. To Lu Yuan, that particular voice sounded very familiar. Looking out from his VIP window, he saw that it was indeed Long Haoqing. Once Haoqing spoke, the room suddenly went quiet as others stopped competing. 2 million was already a very high price, and many felt that going any higher simply wasn't worth it. There was also the matter of Haoqing's reputation. The Long family might not have been the absolute strongest in Zhucheng, but among the wealthy and powerful, Haoqing was well known for a specific trait. He was incredibly petty and loved to hold grudges, so no one wanted to offend him over a staff. Seeing that no one dared to challenge him, Lu Shuangshuang beamed. She immediately leaned into Haoqing, her voice dripping with sweetness as she told him how incredibly cool he looked in that moment. After spending a few days with him, she had already grown fond of the luxury his money provided, but this display of wealth truly won her over. Haoqing clearly enjoyed the attention, proudly telling her that as long as she stayed with him, he would never let her down in a city like Zhucheng. He boasted that his family could get her anything she desired. Lu Shuangshuang didn't seem offended at all. She simply blushed and let out a playful, soft cry. Watching from above, Lu Yuan saw that no one else was bidding and felt a cold smirk forming. He quietly raised his paddle and announced a bid of 2.1 million. This sudden bid caused quite a stir in the room. Everyone wondered who could be so bold, and they all turned their eyes toward the source of the voice. When they realized it came from a VIP box, they assumed a powerful figure had intervened. But for Long Haoqing, hearing that voice made his blood boil instantly. Just as Lu Yuan had recognized him earlier, there was no way Haoqing could fail to recognize Lu Yuan's voice. He didn't even stop to think. The recognition was immediate and fueled by pure spite. Without a moment's hesitation, he shouted out his counterbid. He called out 2.5 million. If anyone else had been competing, he might have only added 10,000, but this was Lu Yuan. He refused to lose face in front of his rival. Lu Yuan, however, remained perfectly calm as he casually raised the price to 2.6 million. Haoqing roared back with a bid of 3 million, then turned toward Lu Yuan's box and demanded to know if he dared to keep going. Lu Yuan replied with a faint, mocking smile, admitting that young Master Long was indeed wealthy and that he would graciously concede the staff to him. He had no intention of bidding further. Pushing the price from 2 million to 3 million was enough. Any higher, and he risked being stuck with the bill himself. To be honest, 3 million was an absurd overpayment. The staff's actual market value peaked at around 2.5 million at the very most. No matter how powerful it seemed, it was still just pre-transition gear. For those starting their journey, the first job transition is only the beginning. An unskilled person would struggle to even use it properly. Haoqing finally realized he had been played, his face twisting as the truth dawned on him. He realized Lu Yuan had intentionally driven up the price. He had been so blinded by rage that he forgot Lu Yuan, a priest, had no use for a mage staff. Why would he buy it? To give it away? Given Lu Yuan's financial situation, spending over 2 million on a gift seemed highly unlikely. Unfortunately for Haoqing, he realized this far too late. Lu Yuan simply asked if the young master was suggesting that others weren't allowed to bid. He claimed he truly liked the staff, but since Haoqing wanted it so badly that he offered 3 million, it would be rude not to let him have it. On the surface, Lu Yuan's words sounded perfectly reasonable. However, everyone in the room could hear the thick layer of mockery in his tone. Haoqing could only stare at Lu Yuan with gritted teeth. If looks could kill, Lu Yuan would have been struck down 1,000 times over by now. Meanwhile, the auctioneer's voice rang out through the hall, calling out 3 million once, 3 million twice, and 3 million for the third time. With the final strike of the gavel, the deal was officially sealed, and the transaction was complete. Those who had wanted the staff but failed to bid felt a sudden wave of relief. Seeing Haoqing take it for only 2 million would have been frustrating. They would have felt a bit slighted, as many of them were also willing to pay 2 million for the fusion staff if given the chance. But seeing him overpay by a full million made everyone feel much better. Inside her private box, the young lady Qingxin asked curiously who this Lu Yuan was. She wondered how he possessed a VIP card for the Skywalk Chamber of Commerce, as she had never heard of such a person before. CFAer revealed that he was actually the seller of these 3 epic-grade items. A seller participating in his own auction? That was certainly bold. Qingxin wondered if his grudge with Long Haoqing was truly that deep. As it turned out, their history was quite complicated indeed. CFAer began to explain the situation as she understood it. After listening to the story, Qingxin looked at her friend and made an observation. She noted that Feier seemed remarkably interested in him. Feier quickly shook her head, denying it with a look that fooled absolutely no one. The interest was written all over her face as Qingxin teased her. Feier simply explained that they met when he carried her through a dungeon once. Qingxin was surprised, knowing he was a priest, but Feier explained he had prepared a massive stockpile of charms beforehand. He had simply blasted his way through with charms, making the run quite easy. Feier then quickly changed the subject to the upcoming Flood Dragon Sword. She didn't want her friend to miss the next item, but mostly, she was honoring her promise to keep Lu Yuan's secret safe. She knew her best friend was far too clever. If they kept talking, the truth about Lu Yuan's abilities would surely slip out. Right on cue, the auctioneer on stage began the presentation for the second piece of epic equipment. The next item was the Flood Dragon Sword. There was no need for a long introduction, as its reputation among warriors preceded it. While it lacked active skills, its raw stat boosts were incredibly high. For any class that wielded a blade, it was a dream come true. It was, quite simply, the best possible choice before reaching the first job transition. The starting price was again set at 1 million. This time, Lu Yuan decided to just sit back and watch. After all, being the seller and bidding on your own items twice might be pushing his luck. To be honest, if Long Haoqing and his group hadn't insisted on provoking him, Lu Yuan wouldn't have bothered bidding against them for the Flood Dragon staff. The Flood Dragon sword eventually reached a final price of 1.9 million. Lu Yuan only knew it was purchased by someone in a private VIP box. Next up was the final piece, the Flood Dragon armor, which also started at a base price of 1 million, but things quickly escalated. The final transaction price for this armor was much higher than the sword, reaching 2.4 million, which would have been the highest price if not for Lu Yuan's earlier interference. Through this, Lu Yuan could sense exactly what kind of equipment people truly desired, anything that could increase their chances of survival. Those items were the most sought after because, in a dungeon, death is permanent. This isn't a game, after all. There are no respawns here. As the auction for the 3 items concluded, Lu Yuan thought his business was done, but he was mistaken. The host then announced the final grand finale of the day, a rare skill book. It was an S-rank Ice Mage skill with a starting price of 5 million and a minimum bid increment of 10,000. The bidding began immediately. Lu Yuan realized he had nearly forgotten about the most valuable items of all, skill books. Their drop rate is significantly lower than equipment. An S-rank skill starting at 5 million was actually quite a bargain, considering how rare they truly are. Such a skill has the power to change one's destiny, perhaps making a previously impossible job transition task suddenly achievable. A frenzy of bidding erupted instantly, and in just a few moments, we see the price skyrocket into the tens of millions. For the first time, Lu Yuan realized just how many wealthy people lived in Zhuqing. He had known the statistics, of course. He knew Zhuqing was a massive city with nearly 10 million people and plenty of hidden tycoons, but knowing it and seeing it are two different things. Today was a real eye-opener for him. In the end, the skill book was claimed by Long Haoqing for a staggering 13.2 million. That kind of money certainly didn't come from his own pocket. It was clearly a strategic move by the Long family. After all, Lu Shuangshuang is an SS rank weapon mage. By securing this skill for her, they were ensuring her loyalty. Tying her to the Long family would provide them with a powerful strategic asset for the future, making the multi-million investment well worth it. Once the auction finally concluded, Lu Yuan quietly made his way to the backstage area to settle his affairs. The 3 pieces of equipment sold for a total of 7.3 million, and after the auction house took its commission, Lu Yuan received 6.93 million. With over 10 million now in his account, he suddenly felt less wealthy than before. Human greed really does grow without limit, doesn't it? He told himself that tomorrow he should look for a house in the city center, reflecting on how much easier life had become this time. Securing a home was far simpler in this life than the last. After leaving the auction, Lu Yuan took a taxi back to the slums. This would be his final night resting there. Meanwhile, at the Long residence, Long Haoqing and Lu Shuangshuang had just returned. Long Haoqing's father, Long Zhang, was already waiting with a stern expression, prompting his son to cautiously apologize for the day's events. Lu Shuangshuang quickly followed suit, insisting it was her fault and that Haoqing only acted because of her presence. She wasn't quite used to calling him Brother Haoqing yet, but considering the vast wealth the Long family possessed, she found it much easier. Long Zhang dismissed the matter, noting he had already sent people to investigate Lu Yuan's background to see what they were dealing with. He sternly commanded them to get their marriage certificate the very next day, though the formal wedding ceremony could wait until they were ready. Long Haoqing didn't dare to argue. As long as he wasn't being punished, he considered this a massive stroke of luck. Lu Shuangshuang agreed immediately, calling him dad. She knew perfectly well that she couldn't refuse if she wanted that skill book. Without that marriage certificate, the S-rank skill book would never be hers, and despite her lingering resentment toward Lu Yuan, she had priorities. To her, an S-rank skill book was far more important than dwelling on a grudge against someone she considered beneath her. She reminded herself she was a noble SS rank weapon mage, while Lu Yuan was just a useless priest, a complete waste of potential in her eyes. She couldn't fathom why he was involved with the Xie family's eldest daughter, but she believed relying on looks alone was unrealistic. She knew that if she were only beautiful without her SS rank class, Long Haoqing would have grown bored and discarded her long ago. But with her elite class, she had the chance to become the matriarch of the Long family, a thought that filled her with ambition. She began to daydream about her glorious future, imagining that if she ever saw Lu Yuan again years from now, they would be worlds apart. Actually, it wouldn't even take years. She was certain the gap would be clear as soon as the student union activities began. She told herself that he would soon understand the gap between them. Although Lu Yuan hadn't hidden his level today, there was a catch. Since Lu Shuangshuang and Long Haoqing were only level 10, they naturally couldn't see Lu Yuan's true level, leading them to a predictable conclusion. They still viewed Lu Yuan as a useless waste who hadn't practiced at all. Meanwhile, Lu Yuan slept soundly and set out at dawn the next day. He headed straight to the city center to buy a house. He didn't have any extravagant demands, just a decent place to live would suffice. We see him settle on a neighborhood in the east called Shengshi Gardens, focusing simply on finding a home that was good enough for now. Ultimately, he purchased a unit in Shengshi Gardens for 1.5 million, choosing a fully renovated apartment to save himself the trouble. It was the kind of place where he could move in immediately, as he didn't view this as his final home. It was merely a starting point. Naturally, he wasn't too picky about the details. He needed to settle things quickly so he could continue growing stronger in this world. After all, strength is the only absolute truth here. Between breaking dungeon records and moving into his new home, the day was quite busy. The entire day was spent buying daily necessities. On the following day, Lu Yuan finally returned to his training, once again choosing solo dungeons. By the end of his training session, he had reached level 18. While he was on the bus heading home, something unexpected happened. Lu Yuan suddenly received a message from CFA asking if he had finished his solo runs and suggesting they tackle a two-person dungeon tomorrow. He agreed immediately, suggesting they meet at 10 a.m. at Dungeon Zone 2, and the two of them quickly finalized their plans. Once he was back home, Lu Yuan took some time to research the current state of the two-person team dungeons in Zone 2. Although he had studied these dungeons back in school, he felt it was wise to check for any updates or details he might have missed. There was always a chance that things had changed recently, and as it turned out, his caution was well-founded. In Dungeon Zone 2, there was a specific two-person demon hunt dungeon featuring a twin monster, a level 20 demon wolf. In the past, people could simply form a team and enter to hunt it, but now, a trial was required before one could even step inside. The trial itself was straightforward, a combat challenge where waves of monsters would appear one after another without pause. Only after defeating 9 consecutive waves of monsters could a team finally face the twin demon wolf in this newly mutated dungeon. Up until yesterday, no one had managed to clear this particular two-person dungeon, or to be more precise, it remained undefeated. But that changed just yesterday when someone finally cleared it, clocking in a completion time of 32 minutes and 43 seconds. It was the kind of dungeon that recorded completion times, a detail that usually signaled a much higher level of difficulty. Dungeons like this offer massive experience, and Lu Yuan was quite surprised to see one appearing for players under level 20. As far as he knew, these challenges were strictly for those above level 20, making this a very rare occurrence indeed. Perhaps the world itself was changing, he couldn't be sure, but for now, he viewed it as a fortunate opportunity. He wondered who had cleared it yesterday and decided he'd see for himself tomorrow. On the following day, we returned to the action. At Dungeon Zone 2, Lu Yuan arrived to find CFA already waiting, though this time, Wang Hu and Zhang Yu weren't with her. However, Lu Yuan could sense a gaze watching them from a distance, a hidden presence keeping a very close eye on the area. He assumed it was her secret bodyguard. Stepping forward, he asked if she'd been waiting long, but CFA simply shook her head. She mentioned she'd only been there for 2 minutes and asked where they should start. Lu Yuan chose the twin demon wolf dungeon. He noticed that after 2 days, CFA had already reached level 16. She looked at him, a playful thought crossing her mind. She asked with a smile if he intended to break yesterday's record. Lu Yuan admitted he wasn't sure about the record, but he was confident. He told her that clearing it wouldn't be a problem and that they might as well check the rankings while they were there. CFA had absolute faith in him, having witnessed the sheer power of his explosive talismans firsthand. To her, Lu Yuan's ability to unleash so many talismans instantly meant he was a force of pure destruction in these low-level dungeons. In her eyes, the only way a monster could survive him was if it were immune to explosions, which, let's be honest, is quite unlikely. There was no line outside the twin demon wolf dungeon, so the two of them were able to approach the entrance with ease. As they reached the entrance, they saw the stone monument where the dungeon's records were proudly displayed for all to see. The record holders were listed as Qin Xie and Qin Shuang, with a time of 32 minutes and 43 seconds. Seeing the names Qin Xie and Qin Shuang, Lu Yuan couldn't help but frown slightly, as the surname Qin carried significant weight in this city. After all, the city lord himself shared that name, and within the Federation, every city lord was essentially a powerful regional governor. If these two were from the city lord's estate, their record made perfect sense. Meanwhile, CFA asked with a playful smile if he wanted to know more about them. Lu Yuan simply shook his head, suggesting they just enter the dungeon instead. Whether they were from the city lord's family or not didn't really matter to him. It had nothing to do with his own goals. Once the two of them teamed up and entered the dungeon, we see them appear in the center of a massive circular arena. Both sides were lined with tiers of stone steps, and surrounding the area were several tall stone pillars. The pillars were carved with patterns of various beasts, making the place look like an ancient coliseum. Looking up at the stone stands, Lu Yuan noticed spectators sitting there. It was a standard gladiator arena, and suddenly, a dark mist began to swirl around them. A group of 5 level 15 monsters charged out of the fog. They looked like some sort of mutated crocodiles. One of them swung its tail directly at our duo, but Lu Yuan didn't hesitate, sending his explosive talismans flying through the air. 5 monsters met 5 talismans. After a series of deafening booms, the creatures were dead, followed immediately by the familiar notification. He had successfully killed the level 15 mutated crocodiles, gaining 30 experience points each. As soon as they vanished, 6 more monsters emerged from the black mist. These were hunting hounds, though half of their bodies had already begun to rot. They were a gruesome sight to behold. These level 16 hounds lunged forward, baring their teeth to tear into Lu Yuan and CFA. Despite the level increase, Lu Yuan stuck to his strategy, 1 monster, 1 talisman. He met their charge with calm precision. After dealing with them easily, the experience notifications chimed again for the successful kill of the level 16 corrupted hounds. He gained 36 experience points per kill. Then came the 3rd wave and the 4th. Even as the number of monsters grew and their levels rose, they remained no match for Lu Yuan's explosive talismans. A few minutes later, the final challenge arrived. The 9th wave appeared, 10 demonic wolves, each one at level 19. And this is where things finally got interesting. The moment they appeared, they showcased incredible speed, scattering around Lu Yuan and CFA to watch them with predatory caution. It seemed they were looking for the perfect opening to strike. A bit of cleverness, perhaps, but cleverness matters little against absolute power. With a simple flick of his finger, Lu Yuan sent a flurry of talismans flying out like command tokens, whistling through the air. They reached the demonic wolves in a heartbeat, and with a series of thunderous booms, the creatures were torn apart by the blast. As the wolves collapsed, a sudden, piercing howl echoed from deep within the surrounding mist. And then, the atmosphere shifted. We hear the sound of rapid footsteps, the heavy, rhythmic padding of a wolf, approaching them at an alarming speed. Judging by the sound, this beast was both massive and incredibly fast, prompting Lu Yuan to quickly pull out 2 haste talismans. He slapped one onto CFA's leg, warning her that if the beast targeted her, she must use this speed to dodge. CFA's mind went blank for a moment. Weren't talisman masters limited to only one type of charm? How did he have another? She was utterly shocked. Watching Lu Yuan release his talismans earlier without any casting time or incantations was already strange enough. To be honest, she thought that was already overpowered, but seeing him produce entirely different utility charms was on another level. At this point, she was certain Lu Yuan was nothing like other talisman masters. This was effectively an entirely new profession. She even began to doubt if the S-rank status she saw when they teamed up was the full truth. Of course, she was right. Lu Yuan appeared as an S-rank because his EX system masked his true nature, ensuring no one could see his actual rank. While she was lost in her shock, the black mist finally cleared, revealing a monstrous wolf standing in the center of the clearing. Standing 2 meters tall, the beast was wreathed in pale blue demonic flames and possessed 2 terrifying, snarling heads. Looking as if it had crawled straight out of hell, the beast let out a roar and unleashed a torrent of fire toward our duo. Moving like the wind thanks to the charms, they both managed to dodge the flames just in time. Lu Yuan didn't waste a second. He unleashed nearly 100 explosive talismans in an instant. Amidst the deafening roar and flying sparks, something strange happened. The blast didn't kill it. Instead, the 2-headed beast split into 2 separate wolves, which immediately lunged at them from both sides. Lu Yuan continued to unleash explosive talismans, the blast sending the wolves tumbling backward across the ground. But as they scrambled back up, they seemed completely unharmed. With a chilling howl, they summoned a swarm of phantom wolves from the mist. The phantoms lunged toward them. CFA quickly warned him that these creatures appeared to be immune to his explosions. She had previously thought Lu Yuan was invincible unless he met an immune opponent, and unfortunately, that moment had arrived. The phantom cubs swarmed them instantly. Though they were mere illusions, their claws were sharp enough to draw real blood. Just as the claws reached them, a halo of pure white light erupted from CFA, forming a protective shield around them both. The phantoms vanished the moment they touched the light. She urged him to retreat, certain they couldn't defeat these twin demonic wolves. Her barrier could hold for 10 minutes, which was more than enough time to escape. But Lu Yuan simply shook his head. He had no intention of leaving. CFA grew anxious, reminding him that his primary weapons were clearly ineffective here. Lu Yuan calmly asked her if she truly believed he only possessed one type of talisman. CFA fell silent, realization dawning on her. Of course, he had already used a haste talisman on her, so it stood to reason he had other offensive charms in his arsenal. Her panic faded, replaced by a sense of anticipation. She realized she was about to witness something historic. Meanwhile, the 2 wolves howled in unison and merged back into a single, flame-wreathed beast. Lu Yuan watched it with a cold gaze. He wondered aloud if the creature's immunity to fire would protect it against the wrath of the heavens. A series of heavenly thunder talismans began to float around his fingers. As they flew out, the sky was suddenly consumed by a violent storm. The wind roared and lightning flashed as thunderous bolts began to rain down, relentlessly striking the twin demonic wolves. Massive pillars of electricity, thick as tree trunks, slammed into the beast until it was reduced to nothing but ash. Even after the wolves were gone, the lightning continued to strike. Lu Yuan had summoned so many talismans that the storm refused to subside. CFA stood by, her hand over her mouth and her eyes wide with terror as she watched the sheer power on display. To think that such divine authority was commanded by a mere talisman. At this point, she realized she didn't understand his profession at all. At that moment, Lu Yuan heard the system notification. Congratulations, you have successfully slain the level 20 twin demonic wolves. You have gained 1,800 experience points. Congratulations, you have successfully reached level 19. As he leveled up, we see him glance back at CFA, who had also reached level 17. It was time to leave. Lu Yuan smiled at her while she stood there dazed, and once she snapped out of it, she asked what that talisman was. He didn't bother hiding the name, simply calling it the Heavenly Thunder Talisman, a name that certainly fit the display we just witnessed. CFA nodded as they walked out of the dungeon, where both received a notification. Congratulations on clearing the twin demonic wolves dungeon. Their clear time was 15 minutes and 57 seconds. They had set a new record, and right after this announcement, Lu Yuan's system, which had been quiet for days, chimed again. Congratulations on setting a new record. You have earned a title. The title was Advanced Professional, which increases base attributes. Lu Yuan was delighted, as he hadn't expected such a surprise. A boost to base attributes is a gift that only gets stronger as one levels up. Naturally, he immediately checked his current stats. He looked closely at the additional attributes now listed in the parentheses behind his main numbers. CFA was already buzzing with excitement, declaring she had to tell Sister Qin. She looked like she couldn't wait to go and brag. Hearing this, Lu Yuan realized she must be quite close with Qin Xia. To be honest, it wasn't surprising for children of great families to know each other. He simply nodded, acknowledging the broken record. He had no intention of ruining her good mood right now. When CFA asked which dungeon they should tackle next, Lu Yuan replied that any of them would do. The experience points from the remaining dungeons wouldn't be as generous as the twin demonic wolves, so the choice didn't really matter. They picked the dungeon with the shortest line. From there, the leveling process became a smooth, almost effortless routine. No unexpected incidents occurred. In fact, the time spent clearing the dungeons was often shorter than the time spent waiting in line. As time slipped away, they eventually reached their final dungeon. As Lu Yuan struck down the very last monster, he finally heard the notification he had been waiting for. Successfully killed level 20 Howling Axe. Congratulations. He had successfully reached level 20. His system congratulated him on the 5-level jump, rewarding him with a new talisman, the Ice Spirit Talisman. This charm could release 100 icy spirits to strike enemies with a frostbite effect, its power growing alongside him. Lu Yuan studied the description carefully. It was another offensive talisman, but with a different elemental attribute, giving him more tactical options when facing various types of monsters. After clearing out the remaining monsters in the dungeon, Lu Yuan and Xie finally stepped back out into the open air. It was already dusk. He turned to her, mentioning that he would be heading to the Haoku Abyss next, hoping to cooperate again once she reached rank 2. Xie agreed, but asked him to stop being so formal and just call her Fair. Lu Yuan, ever practical, immediately accepted the change. He bid her farewell and left without a second thought. Shortly after he disappeared, Xiefei's bodyguard approached her with a respectful bow. He congratulated her on being one step closer to her first job advancement. She murmured that she only hoped it would be enough to heal her grandfather. She whispered the words to herself, and her bodyguard firmly assured her that it would happen. The next day arrived quickly. We see Lu Yuan heading straight for Dungeon Zone 5, the home of the famous Haoku Abyss. One could say this place is legendary. It is considered the best spot for leveling up before one's first advancement, provided, of course, that you are strong enough to survive it. The entry requirements are strictly set between level 20 and 30, even though Lu Yuan previously had the strength of a higher level. He simply wasn't allowed inside until now. To be honest, the system can be quite stubborn about its own rules. Now that he had reached level 20, he could finally enter. The Haoku Abyss is known for its staggering number of monsters. Furthermore, this is a repeatable dungeon, unlike the ones he had cleared before which vanished or locked after a single run. Naturally, the danger level here is far beyond any other dungeon. It is a place that demands respect, or at least a very sharp blade. Countless people lose their lives in the abyss every year. When Lu Yuan arrived, he found there was absolutely no one waiting in line. He entered the dungeon alone, and the moment the teleportation light faded, he found himself standing at the edge of a massive canyon. The canyon sloped steeply downward, and along its jagged walls, we see something strange and unsettling beginning to move. Eerie slime monsters, all level 20, were writhing across the ground in grotesque, pulsating clumps. It was not a pleasant sight, to say the least. They looked like piles of waste, and worse yet, they emitted a foul, rotting stench that was enough to make anyone feel nauseous. Don't let their slow, sluggish movements on the ground fool you into thinking they aren't dangerous. The moment you approach, they spray corrosive liquid. Some mutated variants can even fire metal javelins, but for Lu Yuan, the solution was quite simple. He chose to clear the path with explosions, and amidst the blasts, system notifications constantly announced the successful kills of level 20 slime monsters. Each kill rewarded him with 100 experience points. While a single monster only offered a small amount of experience, their sheer numbers were staggering as Lu Yuan continued his descent. He cleared the monsters as he went, and after descending about 200 meters, the slime monsters finally began to disappear. Up ahead, he encountered walking skeletons, though these were draped in eerie blue flames that added a distinctly supernatural chill to the air. They let out strange, haunting shrieks, and the moment they spotted Lu Yuan, they began charging toward him all at once. It seemed they intended to tear him apart. Skeletons, is it? Well, he had a very specific greeting prepared for them. He decided it was time for these unholy creatures to have a taste of heavenly thunder, the natural enemy of all things evil. Without a moment's hesitation, Lu Yuan raised his hand and summoned the heavenly thunder talisman, sending bolts of lightning crashing down on the charging horde. The skeletons were blasted into dust mid-sprint, and with every crack of thunder, more experience notifications flooded his vision. After wiping out the skeletons along the path, Lu Yuan arrived at a fork in the road with two paths, one leading left and one to the right. This is the defining feature of the Haoku Abyss. As one goes deeper, the paths branch out endlessly, and no one has ever mapped them all. For those entering the abyss, the rule is simple. If you have the strength, you just keep moving forward. If you are still alive after 2 hours, the dungeon automatically teleports you out. Yet so far, no one has ever reached the very bottom. Faced with the unknown, Lu Yuan knew that overthinking was useless, so he simply chose the path to the right. The moment he stepped inside, he saw several rotting hounds lunging straight for him. These hounds remained at level 20, showing no change in difficulty, even as they attempted to surround him in a coordinated pack attack. For many classes, this would be a truly difficult situation, but fortunately, Lu Yuan's crowd control was simple. He raised his hand and tossed out an explosive. The rotting hounds were blasted into pieces that scattered everywhere, and after walking a bit further and clearing the rest, we see the path open up. Lu Yuan finally reached the second junction, and at that very moment, he successfully leveled up to 21. His first priority, naturally, was to check his stats. He wanted to examine the growth between levels 20 and 30, comparing it to his previous data to see how his power was scaling. He learned that his growth values had shifted. With each level, his health increased by 500, while his strength, defense, and agility rose by 50. His magic power increased by 200 and his mana by 400, though he noticed a catch. Every level now required an additional 10,000 experience points. Yes, 10,000 more per level, which meant the difficulty of advancing was climbing higher and higher with every step he took. Lu Yuan once again chose the path to the right and continued forward. On the next stretch of the road, we encounter a new type of monster. These were spiders wreathed in flames known as self-detonating spiders, which charge directly at any human they spot to trigger a lethal explosion. Their bodies are essentially living time bombs. If they successfully blow themselves up, they die, but you get absolutely nothing for surviving it. To gain experience, the adventurer must kill them first. These are dangerous, unrewarding monsters that, to be honest, no one ever wants to encounter. The moment Lu Yuan saw them, he acted quickly, summoning his ice spirit talismans to deal with the threat. Since these spiders rely on fire to detonate, he decided to let the ice spirits cool them down a bit, and just in time, too. Ice spirits rained down, coating the ground in a path of crystal-clear frost that instantly extinguished the flames on the spiders' bodies. Their bodies were pierced by the ice, their life force fading away, and only after they were dead did the ice shards on the ground begin to vanish. The once scorching canyon now carried a distinct chill as Lu Yuan finished off the remaining spiders and pressed deeper into the abyss. Arriving at yet another fork in the road, he stuck to his pattern and chose the right again, noticing that the monster levels had finally shifted. They had risen from level 20 to level 21. While a single level only adds 10 extra experience points per kill, we shouldn't underestimate the math. Given the staggering number of monsters here, every small increase adds up to a significant total, especially when dealing with hundreds of them. At this pace, it seemed unlikely he would face any truly powerful bosses within the 2-hour limit. This place, it turns out, was actually perfect for power leveling. Ideally, both partners would need to possess considerable strength to even stand a chance of venturing into the deeper reaches of this place. As Lu Yuan continued his rapid slaughter, moving deeper into the abyss, he couldn't help but feel a sense of quiet amazement at the situation.